Hi, and welcome to another webinar in the series Nutrition and Foods with Context. I'm Megan Mamcher, a McGill dietetic student, and I will be taking us through our presentation today, which is all about lentils. So what exactly are lentils? Well, lentils are a type of pulse which belongs to the legume family. And lentils, along with other dried beans, dried peas, and chickpeas, are actually the edible seed found inside of the legume pod. And there are a couple different types of lentils. We have brown lentils, green, red and yellow lentils, and some specialty varieties like these beluga lentils. And typically you can find lentils either split or whole. And typically the split lentils are the red lentils. So as you can see here, they kind of look like the seed has been split in half. And these lentils are faster cooking. And the thing is, they don't really hold their shape after they've been cooked. So they're usually better for recipes like soups or stews or purees. Now, whole lentils, which are basically all the other colors except red, will hold their shape after you cook them. So they might be better for recipes where texture is important. Like if you're making a lentil burger, or if you're going to just boil lentils and have them as a side or on a salad. So lentils have many beneficial characteristics, all of which we're going to discuss a little bit more throughout this presentation. But that is that lentils are sustainable, they're nutritious, they're affordable and accessible, and of course, that they are delicious. So lentils are native to North America and Western Asia. And they were actually one of the first domesticated crops. And it was thought that they were a dietary staple, actually, of the ancient Romans and Egyptians. And nowadays, Canada is the worldwide leader of lentil production, and we export also a large amount of lentils to other countries all around the world. So lentils and other pulses, too, have some special characteristics that make them a really sustainable and environmentally friendly crop to grow. So most of our greenhouse gas emissions that come from agriculture are related to nitrogen fertilizers that we use to help grow crops. But one of the good things about lentils is that they can actually make their own fertilizer. So they have a special relationship with the bacteria in the soil that allows them to actually pull nitrogen from the air and deposit it into the soil. And in doing so, they can use some of that nitrogen to fertilize themselves so that the farmer doesn't have to use as much or any fertilizer to help them grow. And also in doing that, lentils create a healthier soil for future crops that are planted there. So those new crops that are planted can also use some of that nitrogen that's been deposited in the soil as fertilizer as well. Lentils are also really good at growing in dry conditions, and they only require about 1/10 of the amount of water as other plants. So this means that farmers don't have to use as much water to irrigate their fields, and also that lentils can be a reliable food crop for countries that are prone to droughts. Interestingly, as well, lentils actually have a negative carbon footprint. So this means that while they're growing and being produced, they put more carbon into the soil than actually what they release into the atmosphere. So for all those reasons, lentils are an ingredient for a sustainable diet, and they're an ideal crop to sustainably meet the growing demand for food with our growing global population. So many organizations also recommend eating pulses because they are highly nutritious. So for example, they are a good source of protein. And as you can see here in Canada's new food guide, we can find lentils right here in the middle, actually, in the protein section of our plate. Lentils are also a good source of fiber. And per cup, lentils actually have more fiber than chickpeas, and oatmeal, and also as well as whole wheat bread. And a cup of cooked lentils provides about 62% of our daily fiber needs. Lentils also contain some essential vitamins and minerals like folate and potassium, and they are low in saturated fat and sodium. Canned lentils typically have a little bit more sodium, but as I'll talk about later, rinsing them can really help reduce that sodium content. So not only is this nutritional composition of lentils really beneficial for overall health, but in particular, it's really good for our heart health. So lentils' high fiber content helps to lower cholesterol. And this means that it's not building up in our blood vessels, which could lead to heart disease. Lentils also have a high amount of potassium and low in sodium, which I mentioned before, which is good for regulating a normal blood pressure. And finally, high folate content helps regulate something called homocysteine. And homocysteine in studies has been associated with damaged arteries and has been identified as a potential risk factor for cardiovascular disease. But the good thing is that lentils have the highest folate content of all plant foods. So all in all, a study found that those who were eating pulses 4 times or more per week had a 22% lower chance of getting heart disease than those who ate lentils less than once per week. The next benefit of lentils is that they're really affordable. And as a source of protein, lentils are a lot less expensive than some of our other more common meat sources. So this data is coming from the US, but I think it's safe to assume that the numbers are probably somewhat similar here in Canada. So we can see that a cost per serving of lentils is about 10 cents compared to chicken at 63, pork at 73 cents, and beef at $1.49 per serving. Lentils are also pretty widely available in most grocery and food stores, and they typically come in 2 different formats, canned and dried, each of which has their own benefits and also a couple things to consider. But as we can see, both canned and dried lentils are about the same price per weight, and they both last a pretty long time. Canned lentils might be a little bit more convenient because they're ready to eat. You don't have to cook them. But like I said before, they can be higher in sodium. The good thing though, most grocery stores now have a no salt added version of canned foods, or at least reduced sodium. Otherwise, rinsing lentils before we use them can reduce the sodium content by about 60%. Now with dried lentils, we can buy them in bulk in bigger quantities and probably in a bag bigger than this, which probably will reduce the cost even more. The thing is, we do have to cook them, of course. However, the good thing with lentils is they're not like dried beans where you have to soak them and then cook them. Lentils you can just boil and use as you please, and we will see that in our cooking demonstration today as well. But in general, both canned and dried lentils are really great pantry staples to have on hand. And these 2 different forms kind of just give us some flexibility to choose what we want based on level of our cooking skills or our preferences, or simply the level of convenience that we desire. Finally, lentils are delicious, and they have this mild, earthy, and kind of nutty flavor that works well in a really wide variety of dishes. And you just might be surprised to learn how many different ways that you could add lentils to recipes. Not only can you boil them, but you can bake, grill, and fry with lentils. So there is a link, lentils.org. Is a really great resource. They have a lot of great ideas and recipes for how to use lentils. If you want to boil lentils, you can put them in a chili. You can throw them in a tomato sauce, replace some of your meat with them, or you can simply boil them and use in a side dish. If you want to bake with lentils, you can make them into pumpkin chai muffins, or you could make lentil meatballs or bake them in a lasagna. If you feel like grilling, you could try a Korean lentil burger, Or maybe you could try a grilled flatbread or quesadilla with lentils in them. And finally, frying lentils, you could make a crispy lentil falafel. And this website also has a recipe for fritters as well as beignets. So that could be a very interesting recipe to try out. So like I said, check this website out if you want some inspiration. And it also has some further information about lentils if you're interested. So before we end our webinar for today, I'm just going to show you a quick recipe demonstration that I came up with for this webinar. And that is our maple cinnamon lentil granola. And it's a really simple and tasty way to incorporate some more lentils into your day. So we are going to start off first by cooking our lentils, and we're going to boil a half a cup of dried lentils with a cup and a half of water. And we will simmer this for about 15 to 20 minutes covered. And then when they're done, we'll let them cool, and they will keep well in the fridge for about 4 days or in the freezer for about 4 months. So now to make our granola, we're going to take about a cup and a half of our cooked lentils, spread them on a baking sheet, and we're going to roast them for about 5 minutes in the oven. And this will just dry them out and make them a little bit roasty. So for our wet ingredients, we're going to combine our egg white, our canola oil, and maple syrup. And then we have some cinnamon, salt, and vanilla extract. And we're going to whisk this up and set it aside to mix with the rest of our dry ingredients. So once our lentils are nice and dry, we are going to add the rest of our ingredients, which are large flake oats. We have some pumpkin seeds, and then we have some sliced almonds. And of course, you can use whatever combination of nuts and seeds that you like. Just keep the ratio of dry to wet ingredients the same. We'll drizzle on our wet ingredients, spread them out, and we're going to bake them for about 45 minutes now, stirring every 15 minutes. And once it's done, we will sprinkle on a half a cup of our dried cranberries or whatever dried fruit you want to use. Give it a stir and let it cool. And now you can use this on top of yogurt with some fresh fruit. You can have it just with milk or even dry as a tasty little snack. So that is our maple cinnamon lentil granola. You can find the PDF recipe on our website. And I also just want to mention a couple extra resources here that kind of sum up what we talked about today in a fun and visual way. And they can also give you some more ideas about how to use lentils in your everyday meals. And that's it. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I hope you learned something valuable and you feel a little bit more inspired to try experimenting with lentils.